Today marks World Telecommunications and Information Society Day, a global observance that highlights the critical role telecommunications play in driving sustainable development, particularly across underserved and rural regions of Africa. This year's theme focuses on closing the gender digital divide to unlock opportunity for all. As we look at the pressing challenges, parts of our continent continue to experience challenges with access to education, healthcare, and essential services. Telecommunications technologies, we are told, have emerged as key enablers in driving solutions for these and other complex issues. So to help us unpack all of these issues, I'm joined this afternoon by a panel of experts. I'm joined by Preetesh Sewraj, the CEO of The Loeries, as well as the Director General of the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, Nonkqubela Thathakahle Jordan-Dyani. Good afternoon to the both of you, and thank you for spending time with me. This year's theme focuses on closing the gender digital divide, because there's an acceptance that telecommunications technologies have the potential to help us overcome some of our our developmental challenges across the African continent, but also in this context in South Africa. Where do we stand in terms of bridging the digital divide in South Africa, but specifically as it has gender manifestations? Let me pose the question to you, Preetesh, to the extent that you are able to talk to it. You and I talk about AI these days, the fourth industrial revolution, the chatbots and all of these things. But this is not a conversation that everyone is able to join at this point, is it?
No, and good afternoon. Thanks for having me on. No, absolutely not. I think one of the challenges we have is, we're lucky at the point in our lives that we are to have access to a wide range of technological innovation and communication innovation. But the reality for a number of people is that they don't have access to even the most basic levels of telecommunications that's out there in their life. I think globally the figure is something of around 2.6 billion people who don't have access to telecommunications, and most of them are women and children. So yes, if you actually look at it, there is quite a divide in society right now.
What are the barriers, Preetesh? Because when we talk these telecoms, we're talking, the physical infrastructure itself that connects you, but also the devices at the individual and institutional level and ability to access those. But also, I suspect we may be talking even issues of the skills that are requisite towards being able to play in that space.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think one of the first things you got to look at is, one, obviously global literacy levels. That's your entry point into ensuring that you then can become digitally literate, because if you don't have the basics of literacy, regardless of the language, you can't access these devices. The other challenge that you have is that a lot of these devices tend to still be very Eurocentric in terms of the language structures. Obviously, you're getting a lot more Asian languages coming to it, but it's still primarily Eurocentric in terms of languages. And then the next step you look at it, as you've rightfully said, is the infrastructure. You've got to have the actual physical infrastructure in place that enables the devices to actually work. So obviously there's a huge amount of cost that needs to go into it. There's the challenges of being able to go into different spaces that are quite difficult to set up this infrastructure, and then seeding these devices into it. So the entire value chain of getting these devices into the hands of a number of individuals at the end of the day is quite a long and laborious one. And for a lot of organizations, for a lot of the areas out there, and the underdeveloped areas that are out there, it doesn't make financial sense for them. And unfortunately, the economics of it now plays a part in taking away the rights of these individuals to have access to this technology.
And we have the lived experience, don't we, Preetesh, of the potential of these technologies, particularly in unlocking creativity and innovation. Some of these innovative technologies have occurred on the African continent, and some of them were driven by access to mobile technology across the African continent. Tell me about that potential from the work that you do. What potential do you see that we could tap into?
Absolutely. So tomorrow I fly to Kenya. I spend a lot of time in Kenya, and one of the things we see there is the total transformation of the financial landscape thanks to the digital technologies that they have access to. A number of Kenyans, if you go into this space, most people don't even bother using a credit card. You've got technologies like M-Pesa, for example, where a large society which was largely unbanked, now has the ability to participate and be economically active in a number of different spheres to be able to buy the goods and services that they need, whether it's buying fuel, to whether it's buying the clothing that they need, without needing to actually now be able to have, traditional bank accounts in the way that we're used to and stuff. So you tend to find that for a lot of regions, this technology is going to have access for financial help, but also then you look at education. And again, I'm going to use Kenya as an example since I'm going there tomorrow, is in Kenya, again, from an education perspective, they're using it quite a bit to disseminate knowledge. So if you're looking across the African continent as well, if we look at the examples that we have right there, there's actual examples of how it's transformed society, where you can actually leapfrog certain technologies, such as credit cards as an example, to move on to more innovative solutions to make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, DG, I don't know if I have you back. I do suspect we may still have some challenges. All right, I see you now. DG of the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, Nonkqubela Thathakahle Jordan-Dyani. Thank you for joining us once again, DG. So let's pick up the conversation. So just recently, I was reading the Operation Vulindlela, document accounting for the work that has happened in the last 4 years or so. When an area of development is part of Operation Vulindlela, it suggests to me that this area is one where we sort of need to put pedal to the metal in trying to advance it. Telecommunications and digital transformation is among those that are accounted in there. How much ground have we covered in getting South Africans to play in the telecom space, the digital age, and how much ground still remains?
Thank you very much, Tilas, and greetings to your viewers as well as to the fellow panel. Just to perhaps underscore, yes, we still have digital divide in the country, but I'm happy to also report that we're currently sitting at 82% geographic coverage. In terms of 2G and 3G, as well as 4G, we're about 99%. We've seen now also the inroad and rise in terms of 5G coverage in the country, sitting around 42%. And I think this is a great success in terms of what you've just alluded to, in terms of the reforms that government took in the last 5 years. And now we are basically focusing in terms of closing that digital divide. We still have a population, mainly in the rural areas, around 20%, that do not have internet to the home. And that is our focus. If we really want to drive digital transformation in South Africa, it means no one must be left behind. The people in the rural areas must have access to the digital infrastructure, must have access to the internet in order to be able to actively participate, as Preetesh has indicated, in the digital society and the digital economy.
Yeah, in fact, say a bit more about that, how government grapples with that, DG, the enabling effect of these technologies, skills in these technologies. Are we, do we have policies and initiatives that are seeking to rope in marginalized communities, the elderly, to try and play in that space, teach them the basics that will enable them to be entrepreneurs? The young people, just a few minutes ago, we were talking unemployment, opening pathways to careers in these new fields.
Right. So you've highlighted 3 areas. In terms of a policy intervention, as I indicated, so we have the SA Connect, and now we're looking at the digital public infrastructure program. So the SA Connect is what I talked to you in terms of making sure that we bridge the digital divide. But we also have another program on the digital skills. So we're focusing in terms of training, especially, as you said, the elderly. The youth obviously have no problem in terms of adapting easily. But we also need to be very cognizant of the fact that if we want to have everyone online, we must therefore make sure that we train even the elderlies in terms of how then they can use their smart devices. There's also then the issue, another policy intervention that we've had. You've heard the announcement earlier on this year by the Minister of Finance, in as far as that we are going to lessen the duties in terms of import of smart devices in our country, the low-end devices. And I'm happy that the sector has taken up on this and introduced far cheaper devices for society. So this issue related to affordability, we're looking at affordability of smart devices. We're also looking at affordability in terms of low cost of data. And that is why under the SA Connect, we're also providing free Wi-Fi. We're also going to zero rate government sites. So your educational sites, your health sites, as well as other government services, they're all going to be zero rated. That means anyone with a device in South Africa will then be able to access services online. Now, when you then talk about a passionate area for me as far as innovation, all of this, especially under the digital transformation roadmap, entails to say we want to create a platform and actually call for local innovative solutions. Your local innovators, your startups, your SMEs to come onto the ecosystem and provide real solutions, real applications that people can use on a day-to-day basis.
I've got to leave it there. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this conversation. Sorry, my apologies for that. Nonkqubela Thathakahle Jordan-Dyani is the Director General in the Department of Communications and Digital Technologies, as well as Preetesh Sewraj, the CEO of The Loeries. That was an interesting conversation on this day, which is World Telecommunications and Information Society Day.